Welcome, friends. This is Mike Williams. I recently had the pleasure of joining Brian Staveley on his Dose of Reality show. We had a 3-hour discussion where we talked about the McCartney conspiracy, geocentrism or flat Earth, and the Mandela Effect. Due to the length of the show, I broke the interview down into 2 parts. Part 2 is this video where we discuss flat Earth and Mandela, and Part 1 is the McCartney conspiracy. The entire 3-hour show can be found on Brian's YouTube channel, and that link is in the description box below. And please subscribe to Brian's channel to support his work. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
I did a show with you, and you had me on to talk about the Mandela Effect. You also talked earlier how you did a show with Patricia, and I did a show with Patricia. So obviously you're into flat Earth.
Yeah.
I want to touch on those topics, and since we've already talked Mandela, we'll save that for a little after in the show. When did you start? I won't even ask when you got into flat Earth first, because it might have been a little like for me. I started questioning NASA in 2011 because of my research into 9/11 and media fakery. Brought me to Apollo, kind of a natural progression, and then from there I knew NASA was a fraud. I didn't really look at flat Earth till late 2014. But what brought you into that journey, into looking into NASA, space agencies, flat Earth, however you want to put it?
Well, first of all, like just about everybody else, I was a believer in the space program and NASA and all that stuff and the Apollo missions and so on. But I started looking at the Apollo missions, I guess going back, I don't know, 10 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was watching documentaries and was reading about it. And, I started to have questions. So initially I thought, okay, so they faked the moon missions, but I didn't tie it to the flat Earth or what I like to refer to it as geocentrism. It's basically, you have to incrementally step into this thing, right? You learn one thing, you research some more, you go to the next step, and then the next step and the next step.
I had to go from Apollo, and then I had to go into satellites and the ISS before I started to realize it gets even deeper and deeper, kind of what they were covering up. So what happened to you? How long did Apollo take you? Because Apollo literally took me a weekend, and I'm not bragging. I think it should take anybody a weekend.
It didn't take me very long. Once I don't know if it was, I don't know the exact time, but it was a short period of time in which I said, okay, this didn't happen. And so then in I guess it was 2014, 2015, that's when I stumbled upon flat Earth. And, on YouTube, I would get these videos and there were flat Earth videos. And at first I looked at it and I just started laughing. And I thought to myself, what is this nonsense? And, but something in a little voice in my head was saying, hey, Mike, just push the play button and take a listen. So I started listening. And I thought to myself, well, this is kind of interesting. And I believe the first set of videos that I watched was Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues. I think that's what he referred to them as. So I think he had maybe 11 or 12 of these things. And so, I didn't agree with everything that Mark had in the videos, but overall.
He kind of just introduced you to a thought process.
Yes, exactly.
Mathematics, any formulas. He didn't really get into the science of it. He kind of just got you thinking about, oh, well.
Yes.
And, really question some of these things, and there could be some sort of agenda or motive here, right?
Yeah, it was a very good table setter. There's no doubt about it. So he gets accolades for that. And then I started listening to Eric DeBay, and I bought Eric's book, and I read his book. And
the Atlantean conspiracy,
the one that has to do with flat Earth. I forgot what it's called. I think it's the Flat Earth Conspiracy. I forgot. I should know that, but I read it 4 years ago. So I got into that and I read that, and and what happened, Brian, was with the flat Earth is that I realized what I didn't know about heliocentrism. That was the key. So flat Earth forced me to have to go learn heliocentrism. What we would,
of course.
Well,
and then when you do, it's ridiculous. None of it makes sense.
So I didn't just fall into it and say, oh, I believe this, I embrace it, So it's like the McCartney thing, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, all right, let me just check this out, let me research it. And that's what happened. I realized that, well, first of all, we weren't taught in school about heliocentrism. We were indoctrinated and conditioned with heliocentrism, the
Well,
globe model,
exactly. They
right?
never taught us any of these ridiculous numbers and speeds or any of the specifics of it, because what if we rejected it? They want to wait until, 20 years later, and then if we find out
Yeah,
these numbers, well, we're already living on a ball. It's too late.
right, right. And so it was a step-by-step process for me. And then I realized that I didn't know what I thought I knew because I wasn't taught. I was indoctrinated and I was conditioned, and I embraced the conditioning. So then I had to break that code, right? You have to break that programming. And when I did, it all fell into place. And so, I did a number of shows as a radio show host with folks in the flat Earth community. I think I had Mark on first, and I think Eric was on twice, and Patrician's been on, and had Jaron on. David Weiss was on the show. So I got these guys and gals to come on and talk about it, and that was an education process for me too, because some of them did far more real research than I had done at the time,
Mhm.
and so I got on board with it. Now, I do want to say that I don't like the term flat Earth because I think it has been conspiratorialized, if you will, just like
Yeah.
chemtrails. That's
Mhm.
why it's better to use geoengineering or anti-geoengineering than chemtrails. It's what the CIA did with the term conspiracy theorist after the JFK assassination, right? They made it sound like a tinfoil hat term, and I believe that's what's happened with flat Earth, is that it's been turned into a conspiracy theorist tinfoil hat term. So I prefer geocentrism, even though I will fall back and use the term
Well,
flat Earth.
you know
Um,
what? Not so much flat Earth, but you know why I don't like the term flat earther, and I don't like the label, and generally I don't like any labels because um, people associate you with every theory that most of the people with that belief have. You know what I mean? Like, I just because I'm a flat earther doesn't mean I think the sun's 3,400 miles away. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I have my own set of beliefs, but at the same time, like, okay, so people are meant to think that, oh, these flat earth people are the biggest ignorant, science deny, the whole spiel.
yeah,
I'm already past the point where I even care what those people think. Those people are going to think I'm crazy because of all the stuff I look into. But my problem is the other people that are supposedly truth seekers that are tarnishing the name with all their shill calling and mudslinging. I just have to step back and get away. So I'm just Brian. I'm a researcher. I know the Mandela Effect is real. I know 9/11's a hoax. I know the Earth is stationary and there's no curvature. That's where I'm at in my journey. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because there's so much, and all these people, I feel these people that do that, people that aren't just a-holes and do it intentionally or agents or whatever, a lot of these people are just so immature in their journey, and hopefully they'll learn. I remember in my early days in 9/11, I remember in one of my early shows, I did a show about who's a shill in the 9/11 movement. I couldn't imagine doing a show like that. I would never just come out and call people that.
right.
I mean, these are all people like Jason Burmis and Alex Jones, but there were some other people I probably, went a little far doing that. I would never do that now because I've matured.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to civil discourse, and it's okay to agree to disagree. We need to behave like adults and conduct ourselves in a mature fashion. I mean, that's how I look at it. I mean, I personally don't care what somebody believes. If you want to believe that the Earth is a big cube, that's what you believe. That's okay, because I look at it this way, Brian. My journey is my journey,
Mm-hmm.
and my learning is my learning, and that's how I approach it. And I am on board with you. I stepped away from what I refer to as the mainstream flat Earth community because it had become just filled with all kinds of name calling and behavior that I couldn't associate myself with. Now, I think some of my friends in the flat Earth community probably thought that I turned my back on them, and I didn't turn my back. It basically what happened was I had to make a decision that said I cannot link myself to this because I am a serious researcher. And if I get myself attached to all of this nonsense where people are flinging mud and calling each other names and all that stuff, I mean that's not going to do me any good. So I stepped back from it, and also I had gotten into the work of Martin Kenny, the cosmic egg theory, which is takes the flat Earth forward. I mean, so to the main talking points of the mainstream flat Earth community today is it's flat, there's a dome, they're hiding God, right? That's basically the 3-point mantra. That's the elevator speech, right? But when we get into syncretism, the work of Santos Bonacci and Martin Kenney, and we start talking about the cosmic egg theory, that to me was explosive. That blew my mind. And and Martin's been on my show a number of times, and he's, in my view, Martin's brilliant for the work that he's done, and also Santos. Because he's really the godfather of syncretism, And so any case, so that was my evolution, So I kind of evolved from the 2015 position to where I am today. And, I just look at it and say, as long as I'm satisfied with where I'm at, with what it is that I'm looking at, I'm good. I'm not particularly concerned over what somebody else thinks about what I think. When I do my shows like you do your shows, right? I do my shows because I'm just putting information out there. I'm just expressing my research, my findings. That's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. If it resonates with you, fine. If it doesn't, that's okay too. There's no skin off my back. I'm just presenting information.
Yeah, I won't say I don't try and convince anybody, because I certainly try and convince people of things. But at the same time, I always stress to people that listen to the show have heard me say it over and over. You don't got to believe what I believe, but you're being lied to about these things. So I believe that everybody deserves to know they're being lied to, and then where they want to take it from there and go on their own journey, that's fine. And the people that want to completely close themselves off to it, well, I'm starting to lose a lot of motivation to help those people.
You can't help them. You can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. You can't help somebody that doesn't have eyes to see and ears to hear. You can't help them. So there's no sense wasting your time on those people. It's much better to invest your time on those that really want to learn, those that really are invested in increasing their level of knowledge and wisdom and bringing your information to them. That's why, Brian, I only have 16,000 subscribers on my main YouTube channel. I've been in business for 5 years. I mean, that's not a lot of subscribers for somebody who's put out the amount of content that I have. And I don't concern myself over that, because I look at it this way. The subscribers that I do have, they are very loyal. They're smart. And, they're in it. They're in it for the long haul. And they're very supportive. So those are the people that I'm interacting with. Those are the people that I'm presenting to and talking back and forth with. And that to me is more important than trying to boil the ocean, because if you try to boil the ocean, what's the old saying? A jack of all trades, master of none. I don't want to be in that boat.
So getting into flat Earth. So you said you watched Mark Sargent, you watched Eric Dubay. Was it when that stuff was new? So this was the spring of 2015. Is that when you started?
Yep.
So what were the big ones that really got you? Like for me, it was just the whole idea of trying to wrap my head around how airplanes work on this ball, how they fly, how they go around it, and especially how they would land on a north-south runway if the Earth is spinning west to east. What type of pilot would even attempt such a thing? This is the thing that I like to go right at with people. There's so many things. Water finding its level, no curvature, boats over the horizon, the different things that go on with the moon. For you, what are the ones that are like, man, it's just no way it's a spinning globe?
Well, the Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, for one, right? That was something in the very beginning. I mean, you almost seem kind of dumb, thinking to yourself, well, why didn't I realize this to begin with, right? So we're not spinning, number one, okay? NASA and quote unquote science wants to tell us that the reason, you don't sense the spin is because the atmosphere is also rotating, but that's just a bunch of nonsense. That's just something they throw out there in order to try to explain away something that's ridiculous. The horizon always being at eye level, no matter what altitude you're at. That was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Because I was flying in airplanes a lot. This goes back to when I was, still traveling a lot for business. And, I'd be in the airplane. I would take a look out after I discovered the whole flat Earth theory. And I thought to myself, well, I'll be, look at that. It is at eye level.
so much of it, bro, it's really what's always gone with our observations, what we've always known. We believe it's the exact opposite. Yet we're the crazy ones when we tell people, hey, you never felt it spinning because it's not spinning. You've never seen the curve. So people will try and come up with all these reasons, like how an airplane goes around the ball, gravity's pulling it around it perfectly. Even though obviously, so gravity's pulling the plane, but it holds down the oceans, but it let butterflies fly, and it's just what is gravity? Some sentient being now? Like it is the God basically. But it's like all these things are the exact opposite of what we experience. And when one of the big ones for me is, and they still push this as a proof of a globular Earth, is they tell you boats over the horizon. Okay, this one is just, I mean, this is so elementary that I would say any fourth grader should be, or any 4-year-old should figure it out. But a 4-year-old probably already knows the Earth is flat and stationary because they haven't got hit with the indoctrination so much yet. But they tell you that a boat, and they still tell you this, science will use this as a proof. So you got to remember, if I present this to you right now, and you say, yeah, that's absolute bollocks, Brian, that's bullshit. Well, then you have to know that they're lying to you. Why are they lying to you to prove a globe if there really is a globe? So they tell you as the boat goes out over the horizon, for people that don't know, and there are, some of my Mandela people in here that might not even know the argument. So the boat goes out over the horizon and it disappears bottom first because it's going over the curve. So you see the top till the end until it's totally out over the curve. That's what they tell you. All you literally have to do, and I feel like a moron for never trying this. I mean, all you have to do is pull out a zoom and zoom in, and you bring the boat back. Right. Now, you got to ask yourself, do you think you have a magic camera or magic binoculars, whatever your zoom device is, that lifts boats up over the curve of the Earth? Or is it possible that the boat was just at the limits of your eyes, of your vision, the perspective at the limit of the point of convergence?
Right.
And now you're magnifying that and you're bringing it back. And that's exactly what you're doing. It's so obvious because, again, if you're zooming in and bringing it back, it didn't go over a curve. I mean, that's it. And then if there is a curve, and people want to talk about bendy light, bendy water, I know a lot of concavists talk about this, all sorts of people try to come up with all these ideas that absolutely have no scientific foundation. But then if there is a curve, and let's just say you're right, people, let's say gravity can bend planes around the curve, whatever you want to believe, why are they faking the curve? Because they fake it. Mythbusters, Red Bull jump, over and over, they fake it. Right. And we can prove that they fake it. So if it's real, why do they fake it? That's it.
Yeah. The other thing that it's related to this, Brian, what you're saying that got me was the spherical trigonometry, so 8 inches for every mile squared, right? That was a big one for me. Right. So we have, if it's 8 inches after a mile, if it's 2 inches, it's I think it's 3 feet. If it's 3 miles away, it's then 6 feet, 4 miles. If something's 4 miles away, it is 11 feet, of curvature. And by the time something is like 25 miles out, you're talking about 416 feet of curvature. So you shouldn't see lighthouses. You shouldn't see pretty much anything. And of course, like you said, today, with the technology we have with the cameras and the equipment that people have, I mean, it just blows that argument right out the window. I mean, so the spherical trigonometry was a big one for me because I would go to the beach because I'm here in North Carolina, so I'd go to the coast, and I would bring my binoculars, and I would look for the ships, and you would look out there without the binoculars, and you wouldn't see a ship, and then you would put the binoculars to your eyes, and boom, there it is. Okay, well, based upon spherical trigonometry and how far that ship was out, I mean, I shouldn't be able to see with the binoculars. How is that?
That's one of the biggest things. I know you remember the Josh Nowicki shot, I'm sure, Chicago across Lake Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
That was middle of 2015. And that was huge. And anybody that watches my show, you see it every intro. It's the last clip where the guy comes out and says, what you're seeing here is a mirage. And he's literally telling you that what you're looking at with Chicago in front of your face is literally an illusion, and it's not there because it can't be there if it's a ball, because there would be a half of a mile of curvature, 2,400 feet at 60 miles. The old Sears Tower, what's it called now, the Willis Tower or something? The old Sears Tower is not even, and I say not even gigantic, obviously, it's not even 1,600 feet. That wouldn't even peak up over the horizon, never mind see almost the entirety of it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know, that's just huge. And it frustrates me that people will just, again, you will have blind faith in these people that manipulate you. Yeah, and I get a lot of upset too because people in my other communities they'll recognize that like we're in this manipulated matrix reality, but they don't want to identify the people that are manipulating them. I mean, these people, the high priests of science, NASA, these people are clearly the enemy. Then they're not the only enemy. There's so many branches to this tree,
Right.
like media and everything. But they're a huge face of it. And like these people, Joe Rogan, Neil deGrasse, it's not a stretch to say they literally are working to enslave humanity. I mean, that's like the ultimate shill right there. I mean, that's just as bad as it gets, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're working to keep you in dumbed down mode, to keep you in the deception, and and people are deceived because they give up their authority. The only authority you really should have is you. You're an authority, and you should have control over your own life, your own mind, your physical environment. Yet people hand it over, and so when they have the so-called scientists come forth and they say this is the way it is, people just accept it. They just embrace it. The capacity for most people to critically think and free think, Brian, is woefully missing in the equation.
They'll accept that these people are geniuses without even listening to the words that come out of their mouth. I mean, listen to Elon Musk talk. Do you think that guy's more intelligent than you or me? Absolutely not, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm a genius,
Elon Musk is an actor, right? He's somebody, he's another front, he's a veneer, and they pump him up. The whole SpaceX thing is a bunch of nonsense. I mean, you watch that footage and to think that this rocket's coming down and it's going to land vertically on a platform.
Two of them, they sound like buddies. They fucking don't even blow the fucking dirt or sand around. Never mind, leave a fucking crater in the ground. They literally laugh at us, bro. They SpaceX, same as NASA. All this people think it's private. They get $5 billion from the government. SpaceX puts a fucking red convertible with a dummy in it. Tells you it's on the way to Mars. As crazy as that is, and they even tell you it's just stock. It's a road car with no modifications. They just threw it up there. It's going to Mars, dude, and it's going to go meet up with Johnny Five, who's up there taking selfies until he allegedly died recently. But maybe he'll get brought back to life like Kirk Douglas.
But that's the revelation of method, Brian, right? So just think about what you just said. So what they did was they said, look, we're going to put a car into space and we're going to send it to Mars. The premise at face value is absolutely ridiculous. And for anybody to not at least question that, you've got to be kidding me. Do you really believe a car was put into space and it's headed toward Mars?
They do.
I know, Brian. That's why we're in big trouble.
I told my mother, and Mom, if you're listening, because she does listen to a lot of my shows, my mother said to me, because after that car, I called her, and I said, so did you watch the SpaceX thing? Yeah. I said, well, what did you think of that, of the convertible in space on the way to Mars? She said, well, to me, it looked like it was like Photoshopped or something. But I asked whatever her friend's name, I asked John over here, and no, he told me it was real. So I'm like, so in your heart that it was fake, but just because this guy that's your friend, you're submitting to his authority now. It's just some guy. I mean, go with what your senses tell you. I mean, I don't know how your senses could ever accept that. One of my favorite ones to bring up is because they literally put these stories out, Mike, every day almost.
Yeah.
I did a show like 4 months ago. Me and Paul did a show where they had done the Frosty the Snowman looking thing out by Pluto, the ice thing. China lands on the Mars, potatoes on Mars, cotton on Mars, all in the same week. These would be stories that should be groundbreaking, once in a lifetime generations. And they just get brushed off. People don't even realize that they're accepting all of this because no matter how ridiculous it is, it's ridiculous, cotton on the moon, there's still the moon, the earth's round, fucking, that's all it is. It just keeps reinforcing it. People believe, they want to laugh at me and say, oh, you're crazy. You're just a stupid flat earther. Dude, we research things deep and we have discernment. And you think you have discernment and you want to tell me that there's 2 satellites out past Pluto 10 billion miles out or however far it is, and they've been out there for 40 years sending back images on the imaginary intergalactic Wi-Fi that was around before we even had internet down here. I mean, I don't know how much absurd. Mike, we could do this all day. We could talk about the lunar lander. We could talk about the ISS. I mean, it's the ISS. It's just full of CGI glitches and augmented reality wire harnesses. It's a fucking joke, man, and people love it.
Yeah, yeah, and the Mars rover is another one, right? That finally died after I guess its 2D batteries ran out. But the problem, Brian, is that people, they have a romance with space. It's romantic, you know. They're told about other worlds and other civilizations, and we're going to travel, and there's aliens and spaceships and all of this stuff, and people are just enamored with this. And they've been indoctrinated with shows like Star Trek and Star Wars and all of the sci-fi stuff that's it's been around for a very long time, and so they love it. They love it. This is something that, look, just take a look at the next time they have a Star Trek convention, and look at how many people attend and they dress up in Star Trek clothing and stuff like that, and they show up with fake phasers and stuff. I mean, really? And these are grown people. These are grown-ups, And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have fun, okay? But what I'm saying is that this is how far gone a lot of the population is. They're gone, okay? There's no reaching certain people. The vast majority, I'm convinced that the vast majority of folks are lost. I mean, we're not going to bring them into the fold because they're not even aware of you and me. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not even aware of flat Earth. They're not aware of the anomalies of the ISS and all of the CGI glitches and all that stuff because that's not in their awareness. They're just not focused on that. I mean, they're staring at their phones and doing whatever it is they do during the day, and just spending time in an inane way. They're not looking for truth. They're not seeking knowledge. They're not trying to understand anything. They're not doing any research. So this is why we have the situation that we have, because people just, like I said before, they give up their authority, and they are romanced by the narrative that's put out there, especially with NASA and space. I mean, who doesn't want to believe we didn't go to the moon? I mean, people are like, oh, we went to the moon. Isn't that unbelievable? What an accomplishment. Man's greatest achievement. We went to the moon. People are not going to give that up. They want to believe that. They want to believe it. It gives them something to live for.
Yeah, absolutely. What about with the Beatles? Any flat Earth messages in their songs? I know some people have talked about that. What's your opinion on that?
No, nothing there. The only I had to delete some comments and block some comments. Going back to what we were saying before, where people just cannot behave themselves, and they can't stay within context of the show. So when Patricia interviewed me, and I think Patricia's listening to the show, so hi, Patricia. When she interviewed me about part 2 of Paul is Dead conspiracy, had nothing to do with flat Earth. Okay, nothing to do with flat Earth. Getting these comments coming in, and people are making flat Earth comments or trying to bash either Patricia or myself, or being geocentrists and stuff like that. And I guess I'm just saying that another illustration of how people just cannot keep themselves contained. They can't behave themselves. So my point being is that's the only flat Earth stuff that I've received that has to do with the Beatles or Paul McCartney, is people typing in out of context comments on my YouTube channel, which I wound up having to either delete or block that person.
What about song changes, Mandela Effect? You noticed any Beatles?
No, nope. I can't say I have, and I would think that I would, because I have been listening to their music for so long, that if there were any changes in the music, I would pick up on it. But I have to say that no, I'm unaware of any Mandela affected Beatles songs.
All right. Well, we have a very large split audience. I mean, a lot of my people are Mandela Effect people, a lot of flat Earth, a lot of mixed. What why don't you tell people real quick what your Mandela Effect awakening was? Like, what first made you know that there was something going on where, let's not call it Mandela Effect for this conversation, but your reality was shifting. Things in the past weren't what they definitely were in your memory, for sure.
Well, just stepping back from when I was a kid, I had a lot of paranormal experiences. I'll just start with that. I won't get into great detail, but that's when I knew that reality was very different from what I was being told. So I had a lot of experiences like that. Now the Mandela effect, I became aware of it before the Mandela effect even took off, and it was really something that a lot of people were doing work on. So a good friend of mine who's been on my show, he's a great writer. He does a lot of incredible esoteric research, Jack Hart. So Jack sent me a link going back a number of years ago, and all he said was, Michael, read this link. That's all he said. So I went in and I took a look at it, and it was an article about how some people remember a different reality than other people. And the examples that they used in this article were Kirk Douglas, Helen Thomas, and I think it was Richard Chamberlain. So in the article, it was on the internet, it said that some people remember Kirk Douglas dying. So I'm reading this, Brian, and I'm thinking, what? Yeah, he's dead. I remember him dying. I remember watching his service on television. It was out in LA. I remember his son, Michael Douglas, coming out of the service. He was very emotional, having lost his father. So I was like kind of shaking my head, and I thought, this is absolutely crazy. So then it goes to the next person. It says, and some people remember Helen Thomas dying, and she was the lead White House correspondent, the old lady that, used to sit in the front row and harass the presidents. And the article said that, she's still alive. And that was another one that threw me, because I remember very clearly reading about Helen Thomas dying. She was front page news. It was either the New York Post or the Daily News. I was working in New York. And then they mentioned Richard Chamberlain. And, I remember Richard Chamberlain dying. So what I did was, the first thing I did was I went and I Googled Kirk Douglas, thinking, oh, this is a no-brainer. It's going to show that he died in the 1990s. And so I go in and I couldn't find it. Everything was saying that Kirk Douglas is, 95 or 96 years old at the time. He died at almost 100 years old, I think, right? I forgot. He lived a long time, a second time. He lived a long time. Yeah. So I'm looking and looking and looking, and it became very frustrating to me, Brian, because I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not seeing what I should be seeing here. And it was I think I just paused for a second, and I just had this thought, like, what the hell is going on? What is this? And so I did the same thing with Helen Thomas. And she didn't die when I knew that I'm not even going to say when I thought she died, when I knew that she had passed the first time. Other ones that came to mind was, I remember Hugh Hefner passing away before. Billy Graham. I remember Billy Graham passing away.
I think he's died like 3 times.
Yeah. But my awakening to the Mandela Effect, again, folks, before it was even really called the Mandela Effect, was Kirk Douglas and Helen Thomas. And that's when I knew something was up. And, then there was the Berenstain Bears, and my daughter was big into the Berenstain Bears, right? So I went to my daughter going back a number of years ago, and I said, do you remember those books you used to read, She goes, yeah, the Berenstain Bears. I said, no, it's the Berenstain Bears. And I was joking with her. And she looked at me, she goes, Dad. So she goes on her phone, she looks it up, and the look on my daughter's face, Brian, it was like, whew, white as a ghost. The look was, what the hell is going on? And so, it's real. It's real. And I know some folks, they don't see it, they're not affected by it. And I don't know why, maybe they come from a different timeline or a different reality. And in their timeline and reality, it was always the Berenstain Bears and Kirk Douglas was always alive. But in my reality, no. Kirk Douglas died, Helen Thomas died, Richard Chamberlain died. Hugh Hefner died before he died again. Same with Billy Graham and the
So the
Berenstain
celebrity that's a big few.
Bears.
Gloria, who was a big part of the show for a long time, and she still comes on here and there. Kirk Douglas, that was a huge one for her too. She talks
Yeah.
about a lot. What about you had any personal ones? Like for me, my whole neighborhood changed its name, and nobody's still even taking the update 3 months later. Have you seen anything like that? Buildings
No,
pop up.
no. I saw your videos on that, but yeah, no, my neighborhood has stayed intact. That's a very, very strange one. Yeah, that's very, very strange.
When I made those videos, I was thinking, is this even going to resonate with people? Because they're not going to give a crap about my neighborhood. They don't know it. It's not Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right? But man, those really resonated with a lot of people. I've had people tell me they believe in the Mandela Effect because of the Centerville videos.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's still nobody calls it Centralville. Nobody even knows what Centralville is, but it's always been Centralville now.
yeah. That's unbelievable. It
It's
is.
so
I wish I could explain, or I had some insights as to what's going on. I mean, it's pretty much all guesswork, but
what's
it's a
your idea?
phenomenon that does exist. I will say that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it exists.
Well, the celebrity ones are huge for you. What else? Media, geography. I mean, a little bit of everything. What are some of the? What are
Yeah, the
some of the?
geography, the alignment of North America and South America.
It's gigantic. That was my number one until I found out about Black Tom. I mean,
Yeah,
the Panama Canal going north and south boggles my mind, dude.
yep. Australia is another one where that's positioned. The Black Tom one I didn't know about until you came on my show. That was a good one.
That's insane. Now you can see obviously where I come from, why that's my number one. To never hear about that
Yeah,
after all the 9/11 research, I mean, that would have been shoved down our throat. Every 9/11 documentary, all over the media. I mean, never, never.
yeah. Because when you brought it up with me, I'm like, Black Tom. What is he talking about?
Usually when I say, Black Tom, people are like, who the hell is he?
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things. We live in a very, very strange world. It's a very interesting time to be alive
Yeah.
because we're experiencing things, and waking up to things. Those of us that are waking up that are extraordinary. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything, Brian. Some people ask me, do you worry about this stuff, Mike? Because you look into this, you're researching that. Some of these topics are very dark and heavy, and I think to myself, you know what? I just find it all very interesting. I really do.
Fascinating. It's fascinating. How could you not? My reality's changing. Things are changing when they're in my possession. What we've been told about what's in the sky is completely false. There could be projections. There could be fake things flying up there. There could be holograms. There could just be things from God. It's absolutely not what we're told. How can that not be fascinating? And I'm fascinated in learning about the way we're lied to. And honestly, I don't accept being lied to. And that's my problem with people is I don't know why people will accept being lied to. There's people, you'll show them that NASA's lying. Let's say something on the more lower level. Never mind flat Earth. Let's talk about Apollo or the convertible, right? You show them something, or just the lunar lander, for instance, with the ripped construction paper and aluminum foil and sitting on the moon, right? You could show them that, and they might even agree with you that that's not real, but then they won't take it any farther than that. What's it matter? And it's like, well, you are being taught these lies. You're passing these lies off to your kid, and you're funding these lies. You're paying for these lies by force. Try not paying your taxes. They'll come take your house.
That's right.
So, and I don't believe that this is about money. It's about control, holding down our spirituality. I mean, that's what it's really almost always about. All these agendas are holding us back from our spirituality and that spiritual side. But a lot of people aren't going to see that in the beginning. So I start them off with the money part, because maybe to them, money is what matters. You start them off with that. And then if they're like, well, money doesn't matter, then we'll take it to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the spiritual piece is very important, and it's something that I talk about a lot. And the example that I use, Brian, is that if you picture a football field and it's 100 yards, the first 50 yards is the physical world. That's your physical experience and your physical reality. And the other 50 yards is your spiritual existence and reality. And you're supposed to work both sides of those fields, not one. And so it's very important to understand your spiritual connectedness, your spiritual essence, your soul, your it's the whole reason why you're here having this experience. So when you don't do that and you invest yourself and you're only playing on the first 50 yards of the football field, you're actually sub-optimizing your life big time. And but you can't get a lot of people to grab onto that. I think that that's something that comes to people. That's just an awareness. That's an awakening that takes place. That's an inner thing that at some point something clicks, and the person realizes that they need to understand more about their purpose in life. In my work that I do, I work with a lot of people, and it has to do with spiritual work. And they'll come to me and they will say that they feel like they're missing something. They feel like there's a void. There's something that is just not connected within them, and they're seeking that connection. So that's how I think they fall into the spiritual piece of it. It's very difficult to do a show to convince people about it, because people have different belief systems as far as spirituality goes. Religion, in particular, gets in the way because religion, as we know it, is a control mechanism. It was given to the masses in order to contain and manage spirituality.
Yeah, well, I tell people that almost every show. I'm like, see, there's this whole fake mantra set up, and on the surface, it seems to be legit because it's religion versus science, right? I mean, everybody knows that, religion versus science. But in reality, organized religion is falling hand in hand with mainstream science.
That's
and
right.
they're both there to gatekeep your spirituality and to veer you away from it every way they can. That's why they lie about the globe and the universe ever expanding and all these distances. You're insignificant. You're just this little speck of dust in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing special. There is no spiritual. That's why when things like the Mandela Effect happen, which in my opinion is definitely spiritual and a consciousness-based thing, they want to steer you in directions of science, like it's CERN and it's man, and then manipulating it, because there always has to be science. There always has to be man. There always has to be an equation and a formula to explain away any phenomenon we see. It can never be anything spiritual because of God or anything like that. It's always got to be some complete bullshit that's backed by nothing than math. And people think that, this is one example I want to give real quick. I don't mean to keep ranting, but people think, oh well, math proves everything. Math does not prove a fiction. I could make up any bullshit story and back engineer the math to fit it. For instance, I could tell you I have a flying car that does 3,000 that does 1,000 miles an hour. I'm going to be in LA in 3 hours or whatever, and it gets 3,000 miles a tank of gas, so I'm going to have half a tank when I get there. And I could show you video of the construction of the car, and I could show you the gas when I get there, and I could Skype you from fucking California. Does that really mean that I have a 1,000 mile per hour flying car? No, it's just math on paper. It's not proof of anything.
Yeah, math is not science. That's the thing.
No.
So the controllers have convinced the masses that math is science. So there's a quote, from Nikola Tesla, and I actually have it up. Tesla says that, he said, today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. And in fact, Albert Einstein, and I know a lot of folks have problems with Einstein, I do as well, but every once in a while he comes up with something that's meaningful. But when he was asked about being able to come up with the math for the heliocentric model versus the geocentric model, I'm going to paraphrase here, but what Einstein had said was that they can build a mathematical model or the math around either model, heliocentric or geocentric, and make it work.
Yeah.
So what they're doing with math essentially is they're back solving, right? So they already know the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is I want it to be this, and so then they work on math to be able to back into the answer that they already have concluded on, and that's how science works today with math. And then they put all these. They show Einstein, with 5 blackboards with math. It's ridiculous,
And they also got all these. They'll have a theory, but instead of basing it off something that's proven, they'll base it off another theory, and it just goes like this, and it's not anything real at all. It's absolute nonsense going in a circle.
That's right. It's theories. Um, I mean, they even tell you. I mean, this is part of revelation of the method, right? They'll say that this person is a quantum theorist, right? They're telling you that he theorizes.
Yeah.
He's not saying it's factual. He's giving you a theory, right? And we see this all the time with these guys that they put on the television sets and that the masses are just consuming, and people don't have the wherewithal to discern between a theory and a fact. Um, they never ask. I mean, people don't even realize that gravity is a theory.
Yeah.
It's a theory. It's never been proven. And yet people will just go, oh, you guys are crazy. What difference does it make? Theory, fact, what difference does it make? And that's the shortcoming of humanity. That's why we're in the situation we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. What other aspects of social engineering and psyops did you want to get into? Because we kind of addressed earlier, you wanted to cover that a little bit. What else besides?
Well, just I don't want to get too much into it. I mean, I think that with the McCartney conspiracy, I covered a lot of it because, as I mentioned, that conspiracy covers many, many aspects of the controlling apparatus, right? I had mentioned the pyramid of power itself, the Tavistock, the deep state, social engineering, mind control, right? Crowley magic, the occult, Luciferianism, all of this stuff, it permeates everything in our society. So everything out there is mind control. Your media is mind control. And that's probably the biggest one out there, because you've got this hypnosis box sitting in your living room and in your bedroom, and it's constantly pumping conditioning and mind control and social engineering into your head, looking to have you accept what it is that they want to implement. And the tactics that are used is, if you don't fall in line, you're vilified, you're labeled, right? You're this phobe, you're that phobe, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're this, you're that. Yeah, I mean, these are the tactics that they use in order to get people to basically just buckle and just throw their hands up in the air and just kind of give up. And it is difficult. It's difficult for folks that are looking for the truth, seeking the truth, to be able to maintain their composure most of the time, because you are being battered around, and not just by the media and all the stuff that goes on around us, that the controllers have put in place, but we have the same problem even with our own friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of us that, I'm sure many folks that are listening to this show, if not everybody listening to this show, has run into this, where
I told people they don't have to like specifically they don't have to specifically watch something on TV to program them to say, hey, flat earth is stupid. And then if you bring up flat earth or Mandela Effect to them, they say, hey, that's stupid because of the programmed response. They're already overall programmed to go against anything of critical thought that goes
right.
against the information that's come from these people. So they don't have to, 2 weeks before you bring up flat earth or 9/11 inside or any of these things, they don't have to be recently programmed with that. They don't even have to see an anti-flat earth, anti-9/11 conspiracy type video. They just already have like, no, you can't say that. You can't say that, Mike, because no, that's not what we're taught. That just goes against, because then everything breaks down after that, and people aren't ready to accept that. That's why people, they just can't. They're not ready to accept that, and that's what makes me mad. Is a lot of people don't know it. I get it, and we're all brainwashed. I'm brainwashed. You're brainwashed. Yeah. We're all at different phases of coming out of it, and I'm still brainwashed. There's shit that I'm still brainwashed about that I don't fucking realize it yet, but that's okay. We're gonna admit it and move forward. Some people, they just can't admit it, and some people are just cowards of it. And I'm not saying everybody doesn't believe what I believe is a coward. Don't even try and twist that anybody. But some people are cowards to have their own free thought. And sorry, I'm going off here, but it gets me, man.
No, they have the ability to free think, and they don't. They abdicate their responsibility to use their God-given gift of intellect and reasoning. I mean, I had a situation today. A person that I know. I'll just keep it at that. They know that the work that I do, and they know that the research. And they said to me today on the phone, they said, "Oh, that Paul is dead stuff is bullshit, and the flat Earth is bullshit." This is what they said to me. Okay. Now there was a time when I would have lit up with somebody, telling me that, right? Meaning, I would have went into debate mode, toe to toe, And what I've learned, Brian, with those types of responses from people is that I just step back and I just let them flow in their unknowing, just exist in that level of knowledge that you have. I mean, there's nothing I can do to help you. I mean, you have to, like I said before, if you want to understand things, you have to want to understand. So, that's a big piece of the difficulties and the struggles that people who are seeking truth that we bump up against. Like I said before, it's not just the media, it's not just the music industry, entertainment, your government, your politics, your judicial system, your military. All that stuff is commandeered. All of that stuff is controlled. All of it. But what the most difficult part is when you've got people within your inner circle that essentially attack you, even if they're not intending to. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. But you just have to work your way through it. And like I said, I've been doing this a long time, so it's just thick skin. It just doesn't bother me anymore. I just let it roll off my back.
Yeah. I got some questions from the chat, and I didn't mean to put them off so wrong, but they got kind of asked when we were talking about other things. Scotty Balo in the chat asked if all this information about Paul is the whole Paul thing, all this info came to you around 2015. I don't know why he's asking that. If maybe there was a leak of information then, maybe he's thinking of Mandela. I don't know what his reason, but when did it come for you? Like, when did you start to come on it exactly? I know.
Well, it's like I said. I knew of the conspiracy going back to as early as I used 1976 because that's when I actually had the presentation in my high school at the time. But my moment of really getting into it was when I read the first edition of the Memoirs of Billy Shears, which was the book came out in 2009, but I didn't read the book until 7 years later.
That's what I thought you said. I was right. 2016.
2016, yeah, 2016, and then from there, I mean, I just dove in, and it's essentially been nonstop for almost 3 years now.
Somebody else in the chat, I forget who, but I did write down your question. Asked how, I think it was Michael, asked how does Billy stay looking so young?
That's a good question. I mean, it's one of the things that I noted in my my concert review that I put that video up like about 2 days ago. Billy's 82 years old. He'll be 82 this year, September. His birth date is September 9th, 1937, based upon the numerology and the number 9, which he loves the number 9. So it's anybody's guess. I know everybody has a different view of how they go about doing this. I won't gander a guess, to be honest with you. All I could say is that for a man that's 82 years old, even though his voice is shot, his mobility is extremely good. I mean, I have parents who are about a year or two older than Bill, and there's no way they can compete with how he's able to move. He did a 2.5 hour show, okay, and this current tour he's on is 39 concert dates in less than a year, and it's in Canada, it's North America, it's South America, in Europe. So I don't know. Your guess, whoever asked the question, is as good as my guess. I don't know, so I'm not going to just throw something out there. Obviously, something's going on which is keeping him youthful, and maybe it's yoga.
Yeah, I doubt that for some reason. Oh, I almost forgot to ask you, and I asked you before we were talking. So, what are your opinion on all these other celebrity death hoaxes, legit rabbit trails? What's your opinion? Do you research other ones? Any other ones? Are there any other? What about Michael Jackson, Tupac? Any of this? Is that all nonsense? What's your opinion?
It's hard to say, Brian. I think that we have a combination of stuff. This is the thing.
Sure.
One of the things I've learned with the McCartney conspiracy is that it's not black and white. So it's intentionally created to be extremely complex and convoluted. So I think we do have a mix of, clearly there are celebrities, artists, musicians, entertainers that die. Okay, so not everybody is a fake death. I don't subscribe to that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe that we have situations where it's possible that the deaths were faked. So I think it's a mix of all of the above, and the reason is to be able to keep us constantly in a state of flux and to keep us off balance. Because let's just face it, if they went with just one method, people die, right? It makes it a lot easier to be able to, to peel back the onion and to take a look at things and figure it out. So if they say, no, it's not going to be one way of doing it, we're going to have like 25 ways of putting this out there and presenting it to you. And let's see you go figure out 25 ways in which this thing works. See if you can go figure that dynamic out. So that's what I think they do. It's purposely created so it's very complicated and very convoluted.
Do I even need to ask what you think of these psyops known as mass shootings? Do we even need to get into that, or
we could talk about it? I mean, as long as we don't get banned here. One of the things I won't do is I won't say that somebody hasn't died. I won't say that. Okay. The reason why I won't say that, and people say, Mike, how could you say that people died? It's obvious at this, this event here, nobody died and so on. I say, look, first of all, number one, you weren't there. Number two is that they send your kids off to war. Okay. People die in war. So to think that they would not kill somebody or take lives is a false premise. I just don't believe it. Now, that being said, many of these events, these staged events, I do not believe that people die. Okay, so I do believe that, but I'm not going to say that there aren't events where people don't die.
So you're in the same boat as my co-host Paul. He believes, obviously the obvious ones that we know in the last few years, those are fake, but there are false flags that you believe in, where people do get hurt or die.
Yeah, I mean, we had Gladio for 20 years in Europe. They blew up trains, they blew up buildings. I mean, they killed people with Gladio. I mean, those weren't actors. Gladio was real. It finally came out that NATO was behind the Gladio initiative, the Gladio Black Ops projects, and so so they do engage in killing people. So again, it goes back to what I was saying before. They have multiple methods, multiple ways of presenting whatever it is they're putting in front of us. Whatever it is they want us to consume, they have many different vehicles and many different presentations to put before us in order to keep us off balance and to keep us guessing.
And with the complete control of the media and the school system, I mean, it's so easy to make us to believe any narrative they want. I mean, look at the crazy stories that we've enforced upon all these years. I mean, and they can make you believe anything, and it doesn't even take them long. It's not even hard.
Yeah, no, I mean they control the narrative completely. And there was a situation, I think it was down in Florida, I'm trying to remember, where there was a truther that and I forgot the guy's name, okay, but he wound up confronting somebody, and I think it was at a church, and long story short is that he wound up getting picked up by the feds and locked up. And so, you got to be really careful if you're in this business, trying to get into the truth and you're going to be an activist. You have to be very, very careful, because even if you're right, they can come get you and you can talk till you're blue in the face about what you believe went down or the facts that you have, if they want to hurt you, if they want to bring you down and take you down, lock you up, they're going to come do that. So you have to be very, very careful about the degree in which you pursue certain aspects of these events. In fact, I did a show on, I guess, about a year and a half ago, and we talked about this particular guy. And yeah, it's true. He wound up. Feds picked him up. I don't know what his disposition is today, but last I left off, which was several months ago, maybe I guess maybe 8-9 months ago. I'm taking a guess here. It still wasn't good. It was not good news for him. He was going to do time, is what I was told.
Wow.
Right.
How about this? It's been 2.5. Can you give me another half hour? We'll
Go ahead. Yeah,
I'll make a coffee. We'll come back and open up the phones. Maybe some people want to call in.
absolutely.
All right, so we'll play a quick song, guys. But while we're on the quick break, do me a favor. Go to the show notes right below the video. Mike's website is there, where all his links are. His main YouTube channel link is also there. I put that in before I put his website, so they're both there. And Mike, they can find everything they need off of your links to your website, right? All your channels.
My hub website, sageofquay.com. Everything's there.
All right, so everybody, please do that. And if you're new to me and you came over from Mike, please sub all 3 of my channels because of censorship issues. I, in fact, got pulled off of a live stream today in the middle of the show while 50-something people were watching. They saw it all happen. Before the show was even done, I got bullying and harassment. So we never know, Mike, myself, other people, we never know when our channels are going to go. So just do us the favor. It takes a second to sub and bell backup channels and whatnot. So please do that. And everybody, we'll be right back. Dose of Reality with Brian Staveley and Mike Williams tonight. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Dose of Reality. I'm your host, Brian Staveley. I'm here with Mike Williams from Sage of Quay. Mike, you're on mute. I don't know if you're still not.
I'm here now. Okay, yep.
Okay, yeah. So let me just open up the phones. Yeah, Mike, I'm not a musician like you, but it was just for fun.
It was fine.
Oh, all right, guys. So the phones are open. If my mods can help out and put the number in the chat, 978-435-0006. And you can call in. Any questions for me, Mike, any topic, it's all on the table. And you guys are awesome with the calls. Guys, just please remember when you call, I don't have an intricate phone system. It's just Google Voice. So please don't call when somebody's already on. Wait till they're off because I do not have conference capacities. Mike, you take calls on your show?
No, my shows are all pre-recorded, Brian.
Do you just upload them, or you run them as Premiere so that the chat can engage?
No, I just upload them. I'm a little primitive.
Yeah, you should run some as Premieres. I think people will like that because then they can talk. That's what I do with my with the ones that are old or whatever, and I run them as Premieres. That's what today was. Today wasn't a live show. It was a show from the last 9/11.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so I just premiered it so it has a live chat, and they killed it midstream. So we have a call. Dose of Reality, you're on Brian and Mike. Who's this?
I do.
Oh, you got to turn down your volume first, buddy, whoever this is.
Hello?
Hi, can you just turn down the audio in the background, please?
Yes, I can turn it down.
Okay, who's this?
This is Catherine Snyder. My question is for Mike.
Awesome. Go ahead, Catherine.
I appreciate your comments about Bob Dylan and the interview with 60 Minutes and his comments about where does the music come from and could he ever write them again. There was an interview with John Lennon, if it was John Lennon, obviously before he was killed, with the BBC. And at 1 hour, 17 minutes, he talked about not having met Paul McCartney till 1961, which isn't true. And then at 1 hour, 34 minutes, he talks about waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, rolling over with these songs playing in his head and not knowing where they came from, but writing them down. When Billy took over the Beatles in 1966, he said no more silly love songs. But in 1975 or 76, Wings put out Silly Love Songs. So I'm wondering why the powers that be who wrote all these amazing songs for the Beatles and John Lennon failed Billy Shepherd. Second part of the question is Queenie Eyes. Who is Queenie Eyes? That's
Okay.
it.
All right. So hi, Catherine. Okay. So
Hi.
so the first question, I'm trying to put it in context with regard to Billy. So give me that again.
It's from listening to the interview with Bob Dylan
Yeah.
and also the interview with John Lennon with the BBC. There seems to be some MK Ultra mind control that
Yes.
helped them get inspirations for these songs that they wrote, as well as help from Tavistock.
Yes.
Why did these same people not support Billy Shepherd and put him in a position to write songs like Silly Love Songs that he was so adamantly opposed to? Where did they go? Why didn't they support him?
Okay. So you're saying, okay, so let's just take this, break this down. So it's a theory, obviously, that McCartney himself, biological Paul McCartney, and John Lennon were in mind control programs. This is something that I have put forth. I'm sure there are others that have surmised this also, so I don't want to say I have a sole handle on this, but um, McCartney himself said that yesterday came to him in a dream, right? And you've got Lennon, right? And you've got Lennon talking about something very similar. So this would lend itself to at least pique somebody's interest to say, well, how does that happen, right? So as I mentioned earlier in the show with Brian, I do believe that both biological Paul McCartney and John Lennon were in mind control programs at an early age, and that it is possible, I'm just saying it's possible, that these songs or other songs were given to them through hypnosis, through trance, through the mind control program. I'm not saying all the songs, but perhaps there are key songs. Now, as far as Billy, you're saying now, why didn't Billy get the same assistance from the controllers to write great songs? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, he was very adamant when he took over the Beatles in late 1966. No more Silly Love Songs. And yet, what did he publish in 75, 76 with Wings?
Yeah.
Is, Silly Love Songs. It just seemed that the powers that be that were writing these amazing songs for the Beatles somehow failed him.
Yeah, I don't think they failed him. I would say, first of all, Billy wrote great songs as a Beatle. So from 1967 to 1970, the McCartney that you're listening to is Billy. So I'm hard pressed to say that there weren't great McCartney Beatles songs from 67 to 70. Okay, so I'll start with that, and then I will also say that although his solo career, even Wings, wasn't as prolific as his Beatle years from 67 to 70, he wrote some incredibly great songs as a solo artist with Wings. I mean, Live and Let Die, you've got Band on the Run, Mull of Kintyre, you've got Maybe I'm Amazed, just a bunch of songs. Now, when he wrote Silly Love Songs, I viewed that as basically Billy giving up the premise that they're not going to do love songs anymore. Basically, that was a Beatle thing, that the Beatles weren't going to write love songs anymore. They were going to get more esoteric, if you will. And then, when he was with Wings, he turned around and he said, you know what, I could do what I want now. I'm not a Beatle anymore, so I'm going to write a silly love song. And I think what he was doing was, I know it now, and probably you know it now, and others, because we are familiar with the conspiracy. Is Billy was connecting dots with the release of Silly Love Songs, with in the 70s with Wings, and the declaration he made when he took over the Beatles in late 1966. So I think what he was doing was just essentially saying, okay, I can write love songs now.
Any other questions, caller?
Yes. Well, I find that he was able to write Silly Love Songs that's kind of ironic. And also just curious about what your take on his song Queenie Eyes from 2011 is.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I have not looked into Queenie Eyes. to be able to render an opinion on it, Catherine. Yeah, sorry about that one.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
No, it's a
Catherine.
pretty interesting song. The lyrics are, it's like he's talking about the upper echelons of Illuminati
Yeah.
and who's really in control of what's going on.
All right. So I'll take a closer look at that.
Very-
Yeah. As you can imagine, I get a tremendous amount of stuff that crosses my email and my plate on any given day on this stuff. So I have a lot of stuff in the queue, and sometimes I just can't get to everything, but I'll definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, they had Meryl Streep in the room, Johnny Depp, and God knows who else in there. But I would be very interested on your take on that song, the lyrics, and the video.
All right. Well, I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look at it tomorrow, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Catherine.
you.
Bye-bye, Catherine.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mike, is that a subscriber of yours that you recognize, or is that just a random person that called in right now?
No, that's actually a friend of mine on Facebook.
Okay, because I saw you crack a smile when she said her name.
Yeah. Catherine's a good person. Yeah, good people.
Yeah, awesome call. So again, guys, the phone is open, 978-435-0006. And any questions you have for me or Mike, or any comments, any topic. Yeah, Flat Earth Life in the chat. 978-435-0006. If you'd like to call in, because it gets crazy when people start stepping on each other, tell my mods you want to call, and one of my mods will organize the list and tell who's first, who's second. Dose of Reality. You're on with Brian and Mike. Who's this tonight?
Hey, it's flatter.life. That's my handle. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm just a huge fan of both of you guys. Mike Williams, I've been listening to you since day one. You just you're such a solid guy. Brian, same thing. I got turned on to you from I think it was Ab over at Fakeologist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been into you for about a year, but I mean, I guess I don't. The only thing I want to say is, if myself and all the other truthers out there didn't have guys like you to come home to and pop on YouTube, I just don't know what we'd do. I mean, we'd all go crazy. Thanks so much for what you guys do.
If we didn't have guys like you with the feedback and the calls, and they had to listen to us, we wouldn't have the motivation to do what we do. So
right on. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a good evening. I just wanted to say hi and tell you that. Keep doing what you're doing, and we're all with you here.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and that's always good to hear. I didn't even realize, like, before I started making my own videos, how important it was to receive positive comments. Like, when I receive positive comments or emails and feedback, it really it really means a lot, because we take a lot of shit, honestly. Most of the time we're taking shit rather than getting praise. So if people want to come on and say, hey, you're doing a great job, we'll take it, man.
Absolutely.
It's nice to hear. Yeah. So anybody else? 978-435-0006. He said with you since the beginning. You said that was about 10 years ago, Mike. So right around the time for me, maybe a year earlier, 2009, maybe for you. Or
I started the blog back in 2011, so that's 8 years old. The YouTube channel is the beginning, I think, 2014. So the YouTube channel and the interviews are 5 years old.
Yeah.
The blog is older.
I'm basically addicted to this YouTube thing now. It's bad. I'm doing shows at hours of the night when I should be sleeping because I got to work in the morning, and it's like I'm doing a 4-hour show now pretty much every other day.
Yeah, you put a lot of content out. I'm amazed,
I just got a lot to say. I'm just happy people like it and they listen. So
yeah,
Well, I think this channel is kind of unique to some other ones. I mean, a lot of them, they don't talk about a lot of different topics in one. You know what I mean? And I'm always trying to connect the dots, as is Paul, and there's so much to talk about. And again, how we like to come on YouTube, and you have your certain channels you like to follow. Well, sometimes you're waiting around for a good video to go live or whatever. Well, if you research all these topics, you never run out of options of people to hang out with, because you're in different communities. I'm with my Mandela friends today. Last night I'm in Patricia's chat. I was in Glow Buses on Sunday, or this person on this day, and it's just like there's so many, Yeah. And like I said, I take a step back from the flat Earth community, like being in the Facebook groups and just dealing with a lot of people. But the people I like, I still watch all their shows. Like
No,
I
I
do.
do too. I mean, I have my favorite
You know,
channels and that I subscribe to, and a lot of that stuff winds up on the blog in the morning. So I do the blog virtually every day. It's like 8 to 10 posts. So yeah, so I have my favorite YouTubers out there, and there's some really smart people out there, very creative, very funny people too, that I enjoy listening to. But you need a vacation, Brian.
I know. I have one coming up though. I do have a week off of work coming up in the like the third week of June. So I'm gonna try and get off the internet and go somewhere where there's water. Maybe I can bring my dog and just go on a lake somewhere. I don't even care who goes with me. I just go there, and I don't even drink anymore. Like I'm not against it, like totally, but I might drink like once or twice a year,
Yeah.
just if I'm at Asian and it comes up. And I think I want to go get drunk at a lake house somewhere for a week.
We just got back from we spent some time in Daytona Beach down in Florida. It was great. The weather was fantastic, and I was amazed because the time we were there was no spraying. It was just I'm telling you, it was like the good old days. The sky was beautiful blue and no spraying. The temperature was perfect. We had a great time.
Yeah. All right. While you're talking about that, let's change topics again. What's your opinion on chemtrails? Now, I would tend to think that you probably think there's more than one agenda. So for you, what are the main agendas of chemtrails? What are they really doing, and what's the deception? Because you probably heard my opinion, have you or not? It's not to poison everybody, but it's more of a thing to impede collective consciousness and our frequency and other things, masking the sun, laying maybe a surface in the sky, these types of things. I never thought it was about killing us because we're in their control. They want to keep their control. They don't want to eliminate their slaves, in my opinion. Plus, they'd be poisoning themselves. Maybe you see things differently. What's your opinion on chemtrails?
Actually, I'm leaning toward your position. I used to, of course, believe that it was all poison. I'm not saying it's not poison. Okay, let me just say that I'm just saying that I believe you're correct, Brian, that the real reason they're doing it is to interfere with the electromagnetic frequency, the ether.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think they're doing. So, as an example, the sun is not this big fireball in the sky, right? It's an electromagnetic light, if you will.
And I think we're consciously connected to it, and they're trying very hard to block that.
Right. So the chemtrails are designed to interfere with that frequency, right? So what they're doing is they're putting noise in the line, so it's a dirty line, right? And so I agree with you that I think that that's most likely what they're doing. Now there are other pieces of this. It's multifaceted. I do believe also that it serves a purpose militarily, most likely for communications and stuff like that, because
in what aspect? To block other people's communications or to enhance theirs somehow?
To enhance theirs, I believe. The atmosphere now is charged, right? So technologies that they have, like HARP types of technologies and stuff like that, I believe utilize these particulates in the sky that it's there as a connector, if you will. It's some kind of schematic or wiring diagram, if you will, in the sky in order for them to do certain things. And clearly, in my view, it's to steer the weather. It's used to be able to pulse, to move fronts, and to create weather, to create hurricanes and stuff like that. So, I do believe it's a multifaceted approach they have with the sky. But I am leaning toward the primary purpose is to interfere with the electromagnetic frequencies that are so key to us in the ether and with the sun and the sun's connection to us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think it is. And again, I know that they don't really quote unquote care about us. And sure, if people get sick as an afterthought of it, or because they're going to push through their main agenda and say whatever they need to block our collective consciousness or interfere with it, whatever metals, whatever they're spraying in the air, if a side effect is we get sick from it, then so be it. But I don't think their main agenda is to poison us. If they wanted to mass poison people, right? Let's just say they wanted to wipe people out. It'd make so much more sense to do it through the water supply. Then the elite could just drink their own water rather than walk around with gas masks.
Yeah. And the thing is, when they talk about vaccines and stuff like that, they can easily put the vaccines into the aerosols, right? So that's another way that they can mass inoculate people.
Yeah, of course. And we get a call. So hang on 1 second. Dose of Reality. You're on with Brian and Mike. Who are we talking to?
Hey, it's Christian calling.
Hey, Christian, what's going on? You got a question or comment for me or Mike, or what's up?
Yeah, I had a question for Mike.
Sure. Awesome.
Mike, I was talking to my, I love the stuff that you've been doing, by the way. And I'm all caught up with you on your channel and all the stuff that you've been talking about, including the concert you went to, which sounded pretty interesting, even though it's a big waste of money these days. So, it just seems like every concert's the same, just a big suck of money,
Yep.
They get you going in, they get you going out, they get you with the merchandise, and it's just, you described it as kind of like corporate and just really sterile.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a corporate presentation, Yeah.
It's kind of really sad that every show that you go to now is almost the exact same. It's like, whether it's Pearl Jam or whether, it's all just like the same experience. You go there, you get robbed, you get, jacked up for all kinds of fees for, grabbing a beer or whatever, and it's like, by the time you leave there, $350 later, you feel like you've been pretty much ripped off.
Absolutely. It's a template they're following. That's what they're doing. They have a corporate template. And if you notice, all of these arenas, they're owned, it's sponsored by corporations. Many times it's banks, So, and the Billy concert, the Freshen Up concert I went to, as you said, it's no different, even though he's a major league musician and rock star. His concert and the presentation is his corporate presentation. It's no different if you went to go see somebody else. So it's intentionally done that way. It's to homogenize the experience and, make it as bland as they possibly can and have everybody cheer them on.
Yeah. So, I've been following what you're doing on with the book and, the memoirs and everything like that. And I believe that this conspiracy is like as big as anything, it's like 9/11, the moon landing, and Paul McCartney. Cause like when you realize all the people that have to be in on it, including the Queen of England, right? Like basically knighting this guy, she knows what she's doing. She knows why he's getting knighted. Right.
Right.
The work for the crown. And, when you realize that all of these other musicians that work with this guy all are in on the joke, they're all in on the whole thing. There's some videos that you have up there of guys like Dana Carvey talking about working with Billy.
Right.
And, it's amazing because, it crosses not just music, but, comedy and TV and movie stars. They all know that he's Billy.
Entertainment industry. It's the entire entertainment industry. It's all,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like George Martin said, not George Martin, George Carlin said, it's a big club and we're not in it, and they're all in on the joke. There's no question about it. No question.
Do you know if Max Martin, the guy that currently writes like every pop song today, do you know if he's related to George Martin?
I don't know. I'd have to take a look at that. I'd have to take a look.
Do you know who Max Martin is?
No, let me take a quick look. Max Martin.
Okay, so do you realize that every song, like from Katy Perry to Britney Spears to everything, like has this guy over in Sweden that is the author of all these pop songs? Like,
yeah, I'm looking at him now.
Oops, it's all Max Martin. And now he's got kind of like a company and everything like that. But look at all the writing credits of the pop songs today. Whoever comes on, if it's Pink, if it's Katy Perry, if it's Taylor Swift, it's Max Martin writing their songs, or they get co-writing credits or something.
Yeah. So he's this is very common, by the way, where they have these guys that do this work and are writing the songs for all of these acts. So I'm taking a look here. Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. So he's a ringer, right? This is what I was talking about before. You have these people who are ringers. These are professional songwriters, professional producers, and so on, musicians, and this is what they do. So if this doesn't surprise me, he's not related to George Martin, though.
It's hard to believe that a crazy song about like teenage female angst, that hits the radio and is catchy. You look up who wrote it, and it's a 55-year-old guy in Sweden.
Right. That's because they're craftsmen. I mean, they know what it is that what sells. And the other thing that we have to realize is that nothing gets played that the pyramid of power does not want to be played. So the song cannot be a very good song, but they're going to make sure that if that song has a particular message that needs to get out, it's going to get out. They control all of the record labels. They control all of the radio stations. They control all of that stuff. Nothing goes on the radio that for lack of a better term, the controllers or the Illuminati don't want to have on the airwaves. This is what people have to understand. That's why sometimes people think, how the heck did that song get played? How come I keep hearing that song? It's not even a good song. That's because the radio stations and the record labels are told that song is going to sell. What McCartney's new album, Egypt Station, is not a very good album. I don't know if you've listened to it. I have it. But they made sure that album catapulted to #1. It's not a good album. It's not. I mean, Billy's done some great work, but he's 82 years old now. He was 81 when he released the album last year. But it was a setup, right? It's orchestrated to ensure that it goes where it needs to go in order to push the agenda forward. And that's what these guys, like this Max Martin, his real name is Carl Martin Sandburg. This is what they do for a living.
Yeah. And it's interesting to look at the formula that happened with the Beatles, where, they start out singing bubblegum pop songs, and then all of a sudden they're into dark stuff, or they're into the trippy psychedelic stuff. In the case of the Beatles, it's all happening today. You see Taylor Swift or something like that, and they all grow up through their pop stuff, and then before you know it, they've got 12-year-old girls listening to these songs, and they're really dark. The artist has gone from one thing and transitioned into a whole nother phase. So it could be Katy Perry, it could be Taylor Swift, it could be Miley Cyrus, it could be, they all kind of start out bubblegum, and then before you know it, they start releasing the albums that have the really dark stuff on them, and so you see the same template that you see for the Beatles happening with all the stars today. They come out with a great catchy little number, and they start getting a lot of airtime, and they sell a lot of albums, and parents are like, oh yeah, honey, you can listen to that. I don't mind that. And then the next album is okay, and then the third album is just like worshiping the devil. Taylor Swift is a great example where I can't even let my daughter like listen to the latest Taylor Swift album or watch any videos, because it's just like demonic, and she didn't used to be that way, but it's all part of like a transition that happens. So my question for you, and this is, I was talking to my mother-in-law about this conspiracy and how big it is Do you think the Beatles, like the Beatlemania, was real, or do you think that the whole thing was manufactured? Them stepping off the plane at Shea Stadium or whatever, and you know the whole girl frenzy, you know, screaming craziness that you see surrounding the Beatles back then. Do you think any of that was real, or do you think that was manufactured, or, you know, staged, or both, or what?
It was manufactured. So they manufactured the demand. So these screaming girls were bussed in. They were brought in, paid initially to be able to create the frenzy. And so then what happens is humans being humans, they fall in line and they replicate that behavior. So they had to fabricate it in the beginning. They engineered it. They had to create the demand. It's like any other product. The Beatles were a product. They had to create the demand
Right.
for the product, right? And so once it caught on, once Beatlemania, the frenzy, you know, caught on, they no longer had to bring people in, pay people. Many times in the beginning, what they did was they took these photographs, and it might have been maybe 8 to 10 girls there, but the way they positioned the camera, it made it look like there were a lot of people there, a lot of girls, screaming girls, but it wasn't. It was a small group. So they packaged it, and it was brilliant packaging. And so then once they got the ball rolling, everybody else fell in line, you know, so they no longer had to invest their time and money in creating that demand anymore, because it got traction. And once it got traction, they were able to ride that train right out of the station. But the Beatles, from the very beginning, were engineered. The Beatles are an engineered entity. They were fabricated. There is no organic anything about the Beatles, because it goes back to what I said earlier. The entertainment and the music industry is completely controlled, cradle to grave, 100%. Nobody attains the level of success that the Beatles attained if they are not in the not managed and brought along by the controllers.
Nobody even attains 10% of that success.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Nobody. So the reason why I'm using this example is the Beatles reached extraordinary levels of fame and fortune. And to think that the controllers would allow anything, anyone to slip under their radar to achieve that level of success, and then wake up and say, "Oh, we've got to get control of this." That did not happen. That does not happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're successful in this business, in the music business, you're successful because you're doing what you're told. You're playing by their rules. You're in the club. All these guys walking around with MBEs, OBEs, CBEs, knighthoods. Take a look at them all. I mean, it's
Yeah.
right. So they're all in the club, and if you're in the club, then what you're doing is you are pushing the controller's agenda forward. It's an agenda of Luciferianism. That's what the agenda
Right.
is, and that has been in effect for a long time. But it really got kickstarted back in 1962. That's when the Illuminati declared war on Christianity. And if there's any Christian listeners out there, I'm sure I don't have to convince you that your religion has been under attack for a very long time. We see the same thing with Islam. So they were attacking the Abrahamic religions. I would even make a case that even Judaism is on the bullseye. But the point again is that nobody gets any success, any level of material success, unless they're sanctioned and they're sponsored by the controllers.
Yeah. So Billy got into a competition over the song rights with Michael Jackson, and he ended up losing, and Michael Jackson ended up with all the Beatles song rights. Do you think that was an actual thing that was happening, or did Michael obviously knew that he was talking with Billy, right, and not Paul McCartney, because those two guys are at the level of success and they've worked together? So Michael had to know that it was Billy that he was working with, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's no question in my mind that Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, all these people that worked with him, they know he's not Paul McCartney. They know he's Billy Shears or Billy Shepherd. And yes, that was a battle for the rights, the publishing rights to the Beatles songs. And when Michael Jackson left the scene, Billy then engaged in a lawsuit with Sony. And what Billy was looking for, what I was told, and I was told by somebody who is deep inside the industry that this is what happened. Billy was looking for a piece of the action from the publisher for the Beatles songs because he wasn't picking up any royalties for songs that he didn't write. So for the songs that were written by, let's say, Biological Paul or credited to Biological Paul prior to 1967, Billy wasn't picking up any dinero for that. He wasn't getting paid for that. He wasn't picking up any royalties. So that, he would play these songs in concert. He'd play a few token songs because he had to, because he's playing the part of Paul McCartney. But I was told what happened was he engaged Sony and said, look, you give me a piece of your action for the Beatles songs that I don't pick up royalties on, and it's a win-win because I'll play them in concert. You make money, Sony, you make money. I make money. Everything's cool. Everything's good. So again, what I was told that was the deal that was brokered. That was what the lawsuit with Sony was all about, if it was really even a lawsuit. Billy was looking for a piece of the publishing rights for songs that he didn't write, and he got it.
Yeah, interesting. And to bring it full circle, Brian, do you know of any Beatles songs that have been Mandela affected?
Well,
Because
that's why I asked Mike earlier, because there's a lot of videos that people have put out claiming that a lot of them have changed. It's just before my time, and I was never into the Beatles, so I just don't know. I can't verify any of them. That's why I asked Mike, do you have any specific examples? And maybe we could run them by Mike real quick and see what he thinks, and then I'm going to let another caller call in because it's coming on 20 minutes. But an awesome call. But you have any specific ones that you could ask him?
No, I don't know of any Beatles Mandela effects, actually.
I don't either.
What about the John Lennon video, Mike, where the Imagine video? He used to always wear white. Now he wears all black with like these designs on his jacket.
I have to be shown that video. You're talking about the one where he's in at the Dakota?
When he's in the house and he's at the piano, he's got all white on with the white piano. Now he's all black.
Well, if that's the case, then that's clearly a Mandela effect. So send it to me, Brian. I haven't seen that one.
Black too, right?
Yeah, I think
the piano's black.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, he played a white piano. Yeah, send that to me. Let me take a look at it.
I'll play it on the air right now, but I'll play it muted for copyright reasons.
This shit never ends.
Oh no, wait till I can't believe you haven't seen this. Wait till you see this.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? He was always all white on that, but yeah.
You're gonna play it. You're gonna play it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it now, but Christian, I'm gonna let you go just because like somebody else can call. Okay.
Yeah, no problem, man. You guys, thank you guys both so much for what you're doing and everything. It's fascinating, Mike, to hear all your stuff, and I certainly hope you continue to uncover truths down this path because it just is like an onion. There's probably lots and lots of layers to it that are still left covered up.
Well, thank you, Christian. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Bye now.
Yeah, where do you see this, Mike? Because this is the one that I am sure about because I know this video. You know what I mean? Like, no, hang on 1 second. Yeah, just nobody call real quick while we're doing this. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Look at his suit. Where do you see him at the piano? All black, dude. Look at that. Now he's black at the white piano. Look at his outfit. He's got like stars and planets or something on it. Look at this. That's crazy to me. He always had all white.
Well, the piano's white.
Yeah, but his suit's black now. He had a white suit on before.
Okay.
You look perplexed. You look perplexed right
Well,
now.
I'm watching because the white piano's there. It's that obviously it's not black, and I'm just trying to remember this particular clip because there's another clip with him at the piano, and I'm just trying to discern which one I'm looking at here. So I have to take another look at it. Maybe not the best time to do it here, but I do remember him in this black outfit, though.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I do.
Cool. All right, cool. Everybody else, I'll open the phones for maybe one more call, and then we'll probably wrap it up. Is that cool, Mike? Take one more call?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so anybody who wants to call in, 978-435-0006, and you can give us a call. Limitless Channel says, so Pat and Brian thinks it's good to read satanic. I don't no idea what you're talking about, man. Seems like a ridiculous comment, honestly. I don't know. Yeah, anybody, 978-435-00. Oh, Deborah, what happened to the broadcast earlier? The broadcast earlier, I got hit with a community strike while it was still live before it was even done. They pulled it with 50-something people live in the chat, gave me harassment and bullying again as usual. And now, I got a warning on every channel on all three, and I have also a strike on the third channel, Dose Reality Show one. So no more 9/11 uploads here for right now. I'll space them out over backup channels if I have.
Hey, Brian, there's one comment I want to make. So that you said that one comment somebody made, and you thought maybe it was nonsense. I think I might know what it is that they might be alluding to. So, look, I have said that because of the work I've done on the McCartney conspiracy, that I'm researching, Luciferianism, Crowley, and so on. And when I was on the show with Patricia, and I actually think I mentioned this with Mark Devlin, I said the reason why I'm looking into this is because this is the ideology, this is the philosophy of the people that control. And if you don't understand their dogma, if you don't understand their philosophy, if you don't understand their belief systems, if you don't understand how it is they run things, you are at a severe disadvantage. So my take has been, and maybe this is what they're alluding to, is that I am going to research that stuff, and I am currently doing that.
Yeah.
Because I do want to understand. I don't want to fly blind. Okay. If anybody out there thinks that that's ridiculous, then you go fly blind. You continue to bump into walls. I'm not doing that. Okay. It's important to understand how it is that these people that run your life, and they do run your life, how it is they operate and what it is that they believe. And once you get a handle on it, you'll be able to navigate your life much better. And you'll be able to avoid a lot of their traps and a lot of the minefields that they have set out there for you. So open your minds and critically think. Don't shut down. That sounds like a shutdown comment to me, if that's what that person was alluding to. So I just want to make that comment.
Yeah, it's always good to know your enemy, man. I mean, it's not
Exactly. Exactly.
You're trying to take on that ideology for your own personal life. It's like you're trying to understand it, and
Right.
how you going to understand their game plan? How are you ever going to realize what they're trying to do until it happens, until it's too late? If you don't understand that their thought
How are you
process.
ever going to discover the truth if you don't do stuff like that? It's just if that person was going there,
Yeah,
they don't get it. That's all I'm going to say. And if I missed the boat and that's not what you intended, then I apologize. But just want to cover that base.
yeah. So I'm gonna wind it down. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here? And before we do, also, just give your website and your show and everything a plug and let people.
Yeah,
know.
I think we're good, Brian. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, my website is sageofquay, QUAY.com. That's my hub website, and if you go there, the links to all of my platforms and my media are there, and that's a great place to start. I have the blog, I have my YouTube channels, my D2, BitChute, Mixcloud, Spreaker for podcasts. So a lot of times people ask about a podcast platform. I am on Spreaker, so it's all there.
Awesome, and hopefully maybe again we can, we have some time, we can meet up again and do another show.
Absolutely.
It'd be awesome. And thanks again for having me on your show. Anybody that missed that, it's on Mike's Sage of Quay Radio Hour YouTube, and it's also mirrored here. And of course, Mike, feel free to mirror this if you'd like to. And thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And I had a great talk, and it was great hearing all this. Let me put my camera on. Yeah, I really appreciate it, bro.
Thank you,
Awesome stuff.
Brian. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'll have you back on my show, and we'll just continue to talk about stuff.
All right, awesome.
All right, my
everybody.
friend.
All right, thank you, Mike, and I'll see you later. And everybody, you've been listening to Dose of Reality with Mike Williams from Sage of Quay, Brian Staveley, Dose of Reality, and we are out of here.